Steve and Alan's pro tips in a short time. Learn a lot.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Alan. I know we've said that there is one rule in music, make it sound good. But I think I'd like to add a second rule.
Yeah, slippery slope. I'm a little worried that soon we'll have too many volumes full of Music Ed Insights
Yeah,
rules.
I know. I tell my students to be careful of anyone who claims that there are absolute right and wrong ways to do things in our profession, which is why I think my second rule might actually be okay. Let's call it rule number two. Have a good reason for what you are doing or what you are not doing. What do you think of that?
I will allow it. Seems general enough that it won't do any harm, but it's probably a good reminder that we shouldn't simply do things because that's how they've always been done, or even worse, because I didn't really give any thought to it.
Totally. So today, let's apply that to how we set up our bands, orchestras, and choirs. The seating chart.
So you mean I need an actual reason for why I put the flute players in the front row, besides that's how my band director did it?
Yes, exactly. Let's think about all the things that go into rehearsing and eventually performing with an ensemble. Back to rule one, we need to make it sound good. So, how do we do that? First, we need to hear when it sounds bad.
All right. Yeah. I was a tuba player in the back row for a lot of my life. We didn't get picked on nearly as much as the folks in the front two rows. And it's not because there wasn't stuff to fix.
Yeah, it's difficult to hear when the whole group is playing or singing. And this is especially the case for people who have not been teaching very long. So I think that's a great example. Move students around so you get equal opportunities to assess all of them.
Yeah. I like this. I did mess around with this some when I was teaching. And there's another unintended benefit of it. The students like the variety.
Yeah, they do. And you know what else? They like being able to hear the things they couldn't hear before. Maybe your
Hmm.
sopranos never can hear the tenors because of your setup. Well, try a few rehearsals where they are singing next to one another. You'll be amazed at some of the things the students will just fix on their own when they can hear what else is happening in the group.
I like it. So basically, the tip is don't get stuck in a rut with your seating chart.
Yeah. Maybe today you're rehearsing a piece where the trumpets and clarinets have a lot of unison melody. Rearrange the band so they are together and can hear one another to line up their articulation or fix their wrong notes. Or decide that today in orchestra, you're giving your bass section some love and you're going to let them take over the front row. It might be nice for them to hear what the high strings are doing behind them for once.
So, what about the performance, though? I'm going to assume that the setup should be dictated by whatever will sound best out in the audience.
I think so, but with one exception. I'll use choir as an example. Many choral conductors like the idea of spreading all four voice parts equally throughout the choir so there is an even blend out front in the audience. And that's great, but only if the students are comfortable with it. So I think if you lose any technical execution because, for example, some of your less experienced singers can't maintain their part without being able to hear it reinforced around them, then the payoff for the blend is not worth it. This goes back to make music sound good and that episode. If your concert setup makes it difficult for the group to execute proper pitches and rhythms together, the other benefits don't matter.
So, can I ask what you do with your jazz band at Co College? I don't think I've ever watched you rehearse them.
Yeah, I actually rehearse them in a circle. I stand right in the middle. I can hear everything really well. And this is also important. The students can all hear one another much better.
Yeah, in a traditional setup, the trumpet players can't really hear much of anything else that's going on. So, it's probably nice for them to hear the rest of the group. How long do you do this circle thing?
Usually until about a week before our performance. If I can get it sounding pretty good in the big circle, it usually sounds pretty great once we get into the so-called normal setup. But remember, this is not a rule. Your results may vary depending on the acoustics of your room, how large your group is, and so forth.
I can already hear some of our listeners who might take issue with this idea.
Yes, I know where you're going. For younger groups, we work for half the year just to get them to enter the room, get their materials, and sit in the correct spot. I get it. The concept we're talking about today is easier for groups with older students. However, I do think it's worth considering sometimes with the young musicians too. As you said, sometimes they'll benefit just from the change of scenery.
Okay, so two rules now. Rule 1, make music sound good. And Rule 2, have a reason for what you do and don't do.
And in this instance, why do you set up your group the way you do? And what are some alternatives you maybe haven't considered?
Looking forward to more quick pro tips about having a reason for what you do and don't do. But for right now, I love this one. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Alan.
Steve and Alan's Pro Tips in a short time. Learn a